what are some of the lessons we've learned from the past? What are the lessons that we've learned from the Green Revolution? The lessons which were positive and the lessons which were not so positive. And how do we use these lessons as we continue to promote agriculture as an engine of growth and as a way of enhancing food security? So that's what I'd like to talk about today. And so let me start with one slide that I think summarizes the best for all of us on what we have achieved in terms of agriculture in this country. This slide shows you what's happening to rice imports and exports since 1961. Look, can you imagine? Just little over 60 years ago, you had a country that was importing massive amounts of food, massive amounts of food grain, rice, wheat, etc. And our dependence on food imports was tremendous. But look what happened. Since about 1990, India has become a major food exporter. India has become a major rice exporting country. We haven't been importing rice since about 1990. We still have some wheat imports, but it's at the margin. So if I can think about one way to summarize the impact of our investments in agriculture, it's to look at the way in which we've transformed ourselves from being food deficit to becoming a food exporting country. I think what agricultural development has done is that it has made famine history. We no longer think about India as being at a risk of famines. Yes, we have hunger, but the idea of widespread deficiency in food availability is no longer something that we would worry about. Another slide that tells you how far we've come is to look at what's per capita availability of staple grains. And if you look at per capita availability of staple grains, even as populations have been rising, even as overall growth rate in population continues to be high, we find that the rate of growth in food supplies has surpassed population growth and the increased demand through rising income. So on a per capita basis, we've seen that overall grain availability has continued to be high and continued to rise. And that's especially true when you think about wheat and how wheat production has risen over the years and primarily through the Green Revolution. The other aspect of agriculture development that is not generally discussed is that agriculture has been an engine of growth. Economists will tell you that. Economists will tell you that India started as a predominantly rural economy with the vast majority depending on agriculture, on small farm agriculture. And because of agriculture productivity growth, what we've seen is rise in small farm incomes. And with the rise in small farm incomes, small farmers starting to purchase goods and services outside agriculture. And that then kickstarted the growth in the overall economy. And so today, as the overall GDP rises, the share of agriculture falls. And that doesn't mean agriculture is not important. Agriculture continues to be a very important part of the economy, but the overall size of the economy keeps rising because of the growth in the non-agricultural sectors. And that structural transformation happened because of the primary investments that were made in agriculture in the 60s and beyond that, and with the kickstarting of the Green Revolution. So let's ask ourselves, what has worked? What made the Green Revolution a success? So if you think about that, I think one of the big issues, criteria for the success has been long-term sustained investments in agriculture research and development. I think without that sustained investments in research and development in agriculture, we would not have seen the success that we have. I'm sitting here in ICAR and in the Indian Agriculture Research Institute. I mean, this is where it happened. These were the pioneers in investments in agriculture research. It, Professor Swaminathan, Dr. Paroda, etc., luminaries who made this happen right here on this campus. And I think that's something we have to be really proud of, the investments that took place. But what's important is that we see continued high levels of investments in agriculture research and development because the work is not done. There's still a long way to go, and I'll be talking about that.